it becomes more and more clear that the real-time dissemination and distribution of information at web scale is something that's truly remarkable and, as the doctor points out, complicated. We live at a time when sources, when eyewitnesses, when information can spread on its own, each piece of information building on the other, being retweeted and redistributed out of the control of any single entity. At a time when anyone can create an image, and anyone can send a message or tell a story that has the possibility of reaching an audience without the mediation of traditional power brokers, it means we live in a very interesting time. We live in a time that's uniquely suited to spread the highs of the Arab Spring and the lows of Anthony Weiner. It's a time of real-time stories, both high and low, fiction and nonfiction, which means that we live at a time that for every Osama bin Laden death, we have an Osama in hell. And for every quasi-presidential political celebrity, we get a fake Sarah Palin. To the creator of this, a lot of credit. This account launched in 2008, the day she was announced as being a vice presidential candidate, and has kept up ever since, which is amazing. For every kind of media event, we now get a Bronx Zoo Cobra, and for every politician, large or small, of course, we end up with a Mayor Emanuel. And to me, what's interesting is these accounts exist alongside the real people, right? The real events. And within our own real lives, hanging in our world, the real-time mashup of fiction with nonfiction and of fantasy with reality. These blurring lines, this line of truth and fiction and parroting reality can feel really both exhilarating but scary. Which finally brings me back to these guys. So my first reaction when these guys show up, and I hope it's, if anyone has experienced this or will experience this, I hope it's similar, was to dive off my couch and crawl across the floor and hide in my bedroom and hope that they went away. But they didn't go away, right? And I had a conversation with my wife, which mostly revolved around how dirty our house was. And finally, I went and opened the door, and the first thing I said was, "Did you really have to come to my house?" And the guy on the left responds, "Well, we went to your work first, but you weren't there," which was really not the most reassuring thing that you want to hear. And then he said something even less reassuring, which is, "There are two ways we can do this." And he says, you know, I can close the door, that they're going to do the story anyway, I can close the door, and then instead they talk to my neighbors and my coworkers. He said they talked to my parents in Glenview, which was a suburb of Chicago, and which was not a piece of information I had offered up to them. Or he said, you can invite us in one by one, and you know, we're the first people here, but he said, I'm sure others will be there. And they'll do their interviews and walk away tapes in hand. And at the time, it seemed like the hard way was closing the door. Right? That hard way was disrupting the lives of my neighbors and my coworkers, and that wasn't a choice that I was willing to make. But now I realize that in fact the hard way was opening the door. Because opening that door meant opening up my life to extreme levels of unpredictability. It meant opportunities. Of course, there's a book out September 13th on Scrivener. But it also meant staring into an unknown, right, and taking a step into a void. And asking whether we take the easy way or the hard way is a question I think all of us have been finding ourselves pondering with media and with information as it moves into this era of real-time, decentralized, participatory communication. You know, the easy way is doing what we've always done, right? Of walking the paths that we've always walked, and of hoping that somehow, some way, everything will magically go back into place. But as our communications grow faster and more complex, right, as the speed that information travels becomes faster and faster, as the voices become more voluminous, as the implications of that chorus becomes harder and harder to control, it's pretty clear that that easy way isn't even an option. So instead, we move into a shared reality of the hard way, of standing on that edge and staring into a void of the unknown. And sure, that's a really scary place to be, right? But it's also thrilling, because that edge is a place of new opportunities, right? Of new stories that can be told, of new art that can be made, of new ways of communication with the world around us, and new voices that can be heard, and new ideas that can be shared. So, thanks a lot.